Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? Doing the exact same fucking thing over and over and over and over and over again. Thinking this time is going to be different.
Hey, it's Shapes! That's right! That's me watching the same episode 64 times! And I liked it! These 8 episodes titled Endless 8 are a time loop story, except the time loop is felt not by the characters, but by the viewer instead. Every episode is animated and directed differently, but they each tell the same story of these characters realizing they're in a time loop, unable to escape 15,532 times. Apparently this was considered so uncomfortable, so unproductive, so unacceptable, that a couple staff apologized, and some fans say to skip it altogether. I think you should ignore both of these groups. I watched it literally over and over, and honestly thought it was the most interesting part of the show. This is not one of those binging videos making it a challenge to watch anime. It was 8 3-hour sessions over a few weeks, and the result is, instead of you watching me die inside, you actually get to learn more about these episodes. I'm annoyed that for all the talk about Endless 8 conceptually, hardly anyone has talked about Endless 8. Like, which is the best episode? Worst episode? What really makes the whole thing so terrible to people? And could there have been a better way to go about this? Let's find out. From the day the anime premiered, the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya loves to fuck with you. The anime was broadcasted out of chronological order, forcing viewers to piece together information non-linearly. The way in which these supernatural things occur and are explained makes the storytelling very chaotic and confusing, but also very intriguing. So when the source material was running thin and the most beloved story arc would be saved for a movie, the animation studio pulled its biggest prank yet. They picked one chapter about a time loop called Endless 8, and they took that literally, making it 8 episodes telling the same story with completely different visuals each time. Let me run through Endless 8 quickly in case you skipped it. Despite what you've been told, this isn't actually the same episode 8 times. The first episode runs through all the activities the SOS Brigade does during the last 2 weeks of summer vacation. They go to the pool, the cafe, shop for yukatas for the Bond Festival and fireworks afterwards, catch bugs, work a part-time job, stargaze, and then there's a montage of other activities like the batting cages, test of courage, and the movies, before returning to the cafe and ending their summer. Afterwards, Kyon realizes he hasn't finished his homework, and procrastinates completing it. The next 7 episodes feature the same sequence of events, but with slight changes and new scenes, cutting or shortening other scenes in order to fit the same runtime. These changes all relate to Kyon's ominous sense of deja vu he gets at the start, the pool, the Bond Festival, and the cafe. He pays special attention to Yuki Nagato, who turns out to have the misfortune of remembering all 15,000 loops, while everyone else's memories are reset each time. After the part-time job halfway in the episode, the SOS Brigade discover they're stuck in an endless summer with a lengthy explanation scene, before miserably finishing the rest of the activities and looping all over again, with Kyon never finishing his homework as he sees no point in doing it. I won't spoil how they succeed in escaping the time loop, but it's not hard to guess. This is a time loop story a la Groundhog Day, where the same events repeat over and over. There's one crucial difference which makes Endless 8 unique but contentious. This is a time loop story a la Groundhog Day, where the same events repeat over and over. There's one crucial difference which makes Endless 8 unique but contentious. It makes the viewer the one experiencing the time loop, not the characters who lose their memories and are mostly unconscious of it. Unlike most time loop stories where the central character is aware and can make different decisions to experience new outcomes, here the viewer cannot. Instead, like Yuki Nagato, all they can do is observe. This passive inaction can be frustrating. Viewers hate feeling that their time is being wasted, especially with something they're doing for fun like watching anime. Certainly when this was first airing, everybody lost their minds, having no idea it would go on for 8 episodes, which was most of the second season. But if you're like me and knew about it already, at least you're prepared and not disappointed. Ironically enough, of all the episodes of Haruhi Suzumiya, this is the stretch of episodes I was most excited to re-watch 64 times. not simply for the gimmick of remaking the same episode again and again, but because this episode is, for the most part, a lot of fun. It's a rapid fire of typical Japanese summer activities, all played with earnestness and solid craftsmanship. This quick movement from set piece to set piece keeps things fresh for how many times it loops. Even if there's only slight minor changes, it's enjoyable to see this episode iterated upon or remade, as opposed to something more emotionally heavy like the Disappearance arc, or intellectually dense like the Melancholy arc, or singularly iconic like Live Alive. You just can't replicate this scene. It's perfect already. Endless 8 is mostly a light, breezy watch, and I think the whole thing is only actually frustrating for a certain subset of viewers, of which I think comprises most anime fans, unfortunately. What exactly makes this episode irritating to rewatch over and over, even with completely different visuals and sound? For most fans, it might be the strict adherence to the script and the same sequence of events. Yuki mentions time loops where they don't go to a Bond festival, or have different part-time jobs, but the anime chooses not to depict such irregularities despite acknowledging the possibility. The changes instead are in small details you might not pick up on. Clothing, objects, the exact way Asahina gets hit in the face. Some viewers like myself can find excitement in the variety and relish in what the creators are doing. For example, how the voice actors gradually deteriorate saying the same lines over and over. But for viewers who care less about nuances in music choice, storyboarding, these changes are too minor to appreciate. They could just as well replay the exact same episode and it would be no different. Endless 8 stubbornly sticks to the bit, even if hardly anyone will appreciate it. And I love that. I observe different weaknesses in Endless 8 that have less to do with its conceit. I think because this is based on a light novel, the reliance on dialogue and internal monologue in this story wears thinner, faster, than something more visually dependent like a manga. The montage at the end of the episode, or the big deja vu scene, are a lot more fun to rewatch than the 4 to 6 minute exposition scene, with the characters sitting around talking. This chunk is the real kicker with Endless 8 that makes it a chore. I suspect if this portion was not the thing that was looped, and the other episodes choose to loop episode 1 instead, it wouldn't be as tedious to sit through. The scene is arresting the first time because you don't know what's going on, but it's near useless the 6 other times. Only one episode bothers to add anything visually new. The same chunk of expository text is performed again and again. The only change is Yuki updating the number of loops. Let me run through Endless 8 quickly in case you skipped it. Despite what you're told, this isn't actually
the definition of insanity.
Despite what you're told, this isn't actually the same episode 8 times. It turns out that some are better directed than others. This makes sense, as they were helmed by different staff. Instead of referencing the staff member who chose to distance himself from Endless 8 and take his name off the credits, let's highlight the episode directors who actually worked on it. Like Naoko Yamada, famed director of K-On! And A Silent Voice, or my preferred favorites of hers, Heike and Liz and the Bluebird. She directs Endless 8-5, and what stands out the most in this episode is the use of first-person perspective, either from Kyon's point of view or something else like this clock, that makes these scenes more immersive. She removes the yukata scene, but has the best version of the part-time job scene. With Nagaru Tanigawa's script, I like the Eva reference and how Haruhi interrupts Kyon's narration. With the first-person perspective, you get this great moment of Koizumi knowingly staring at Kyon as Haruhi stubbornly tries to force the head back onto Asahina. I think if they made bigger changes like different scenes or even a whole different art style, these smaller choices would go unnoticed. Although I suppose they went mostly unnoticed either way. Future big-name directors Taichi Ishidate and Noriko Takao direct Endless 8, 3, and 6, respectively, although unfortunately I find these among the weaker episodes. If you've seen my Lupin video, you might know how difficult it is to articulate why something is mediocre. You'd expect this to be easier when there's examples of doing the episode better, but they're just a mixed bag. Some moments are good and others aren't so much. I love this shot from Ishidate's episode that seems like a prototype of his later Violet Evergarden, and I love how Takao's episode is where Asahina eats the most shit. However, I'll just as readily point out Ishidate's pale imitation of episode 2's montage, and Takao's brutally awkward Nagato scene. Which you could argue is intentional, but I just prefer the choice of more suspense in the other episodes. Series director Ishihara helms Endless 8, 1, and 7, the former being way more fun because it doesn't have the exposition scene. His Endless 8, 7 is a little too cheeky for my liking. The opening shot is a big 8, the endless sign in the yukata scene, this extra long take on Koizumi's watch. This teasing might have been more appreciated as the 3rd or 4th loop, or heck, even the 8th loop because it's the last one. But as the 7th loop, it's just an irritating choice with little else to enjoy, making it probably my least favorite episode. Lastly are 2 lesser-known names who've worked on many KyoAni productions as animators and episode directors. Noriyuki Kitanohara contributes very respectable work on Endless 8, 2, and 8, both crucial episodes in the lineup as the one that begins the core time loop aspect, as well as the one that ends it. I love his choice of making his opening baseball scene extra surreal with the desaturated blooming effect, and he had a tall order making the last deja vu scene cathartic and meaningful, and he definitely delivers that. Though for me, his first exposition scene is better musically scored than his second one. I prefer the eerie green lighting too. But there's a clear winner in my mind for the best episode. And if you've watched Endless 8 once, with even a little bit of attention, you'll know it's episode 4. Mitsuyoshi Yoneda is thankfully still working as of last year, after over a decade break. I'm really curious to check out more of his episodes because this was excellent. The simple difference maker is the use of a motif, a paper plane appearing sporadically throughout the episode, complemented by frequent, beautiful cloud imagery. Even after watching the whole thing multiple times, I still don't think there's a clear meaning behind these symbols. Perhaps it represents a desire for freedom from the time loop. But symbolism isn't always the point of editions like this. I just saw this as an engaging visual treat, something that catches your eye and locks you in for what's otherwise the same shit. To me, Yoneda even tops Kitanohara's final deja vu sequence. The rapid cuts and carefully evocative imagery builds intrigue and makes for such a splash at the halfway mark of this admittedly patience-testing marathon. I'm not sure if anyone's tried making this, but I considered the possibility of an ideal Endless 8 episode, which takes all the best bits and combines them into one slightly longer but thorough and less repetitive version. I'm sure some fans or newcomers might appreciate this, but I want to resist such a temptation. Apologies for the diversion, but it reminds me of this anecdote from Ways of Seeing.
Dürer, who believed in the ideal nude, thought that this ideal could be constructed by taking the shoulders of one body, the hands of another, the breasts of another, and so on. Was this humanist idealism, or was it the result of an indifference to who any one person really was?
Something like that is not too far off from fan projects like One Piece, which cuts the existing One Piece anime down to their liking and creates a more frictionless experience. If you've been alive in the past few years, I hope you might have recognized the horror in such a thing, because this aversion towards friction has led us down a slippery, depressing slope. When you remove the friction of traveling to a casino to gamble, you can now gamble your money anywhere, at any time, on your phone. When you remove the friction of practicing and making imperfect works of art, you can now have a computer draw for you, write for you, think for you. When you remove the friction of a story, the boring exposition needed to explain what's going on, the incidental descriptions of something, the establishing shot, or playful banter with the characters, the music that takes its time establishing a mood, the first few seconds of a film where it's black and you're waiting for it to fade in. You can now chart the retention of a viewer. You can now watch summary videos on YouTube. Trust someone else's watch guide of what to watch and what to skip. Adopt another person's opinions instead of forming your own. It's discouraging how the official release of Haruhi Suzumiya insists on the chronological order instead of how it was originally released. I wonder if this ordinary, frictionless version of the show was more of a contributor to Haruhi's supposedly dwindling legacy than this outrageous creative choice of Endless 8. Oh well, instead of a hypothetical Frankenstein, frictionless Endless 8 episode, how about an AMV instead? I'll see you again. And if you liked this video and want to support me in making more on a more regular basis, you can donate to my Patreon like these fine folks on screen. Thank you for watching. Yo, peace.